Hey guys, Professor Bill of Comic Book University, and in this week's Marvel Superheroes Advanced Role-Playing Game System, we're going to be talking about flight, gliding, levitation, leaping, and super swimming. Alright, we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of really cool, crazy, creepy things like that. Now, I did originally make the entire video where I'm also talking about super speed. The problem is, I talked for a really long time. That's right, I'm coming to you from the future. So I'm about to slip over into the actual video itself, but for right now, understand that lightning speed is going to have to come next week because I'm not putting up a 16-hour video. Actually, it would be a full hour. I'm not going to do that. So anyway, let's get right into, well, movement speed. We're going to be talking about, well, movement powers, but in a slightly different way. We talked about it previously. This is going to be the follow-up of that video where we're mostly talking about power stunts specifically for movement type powers. Now, the basic type movements are flight, gliding, teleportation, leaping, and swimming. We're going to be talking about power stunts for all of them with the exception of teleportation. Teleportation is going to be a video all on its own, and that will be coming out next week. That's my plan. And you know what? We'll talk about that when we get there. Hopefully I'll be talking about the active teleportation and the power stunts in the same video. For now, flight, gliding, leaping, swimming. Okay. For power stunts in and of themselves, like general power stunts, how to pay for them, how to do them, and all that good stuff, that's episode number 29. Go back there and check out episode 29. Find out all you need about it. So here we're going to talk a little bit about swimming first off. Let's just kind of get that one out of the way. All right. Swimming. I want it to be noted that I looked up Further Institute of Swimming, and your -1 column shift to swimming, like when you're swimming on the top, like on the surface, we already covered that, as opposed to swimming below, you're going to be going faster when you're up on top. But every 100 feet that you go down, you're talking about losing 1 column shift of speed when you're swimming. So if you're 300 feet down, you're -3 column shifts to your power rank for swimming. That's a lot. There is a way to get around that. Take the power water freedom. All right, water freedom gives you a whole lot of good stuff. Water freedom is also going to count as something to the effect of like aerial combat. How you get advantages to fighting up there. Yeah. I would give you a +1 column shift to your fighting when you're underwater if you have water freedom. Like, that's just one of those things where, and every single one of us, I'm pretty sure, has done it, where we're in the pool or in the ocean and we're underneath and we're like, okay, let's try and punch. Whoa, like slow motion. I can't get by this. So you realize that by doing like an open hand chop, yeah, like Ric Flair. Whoa. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. You know, it's easier to move your hands that way. Water freedom is the ability to just know how to move underwater as if you're up on the surface. So, yeah, easily +1 column shift. You might even go 2. It's up to you. It's up to you. How often are you going to use water freedom? Anyhow, bang. So there you go. Power stunts that you can use for swimming are probably going to be very similar to the ones that you can use for flight. You just got to use your imagination in regards to it. Certain power stunts can be, you can also use certain ones that are going to be like flying or like running, hyper speed, lightning reflexes and all that stuff. So swimming around and causing a cyclone or a whirlpool. I would say that you'd probably have to have incredible 40, incredible 40 speed. I would say incredible 40 speed swimming to be able to do a leap outside of the water. You understand what I'm saying? Like to do a flying leap to like actually, like Aquaman does it all the time. He can't fly. All right, he's not like Namor, but he can do a like dive down then woof, fly up out of it. I would say if you have incredible 40 or faster swimming speed, you'd probably be able to use your power rank. Maybe -1 column shift for a super leap. You know what I'm saying? Or your strength as a super leap if you have incredible 40 or better swimming. That's my opinion. So incredible 40 swimming or higher, you can use a power stunt to cause leaping by breaking the surface of the water. I don't know. something like, -1 column shift. All right. But if you have your strength, then it's either -1 column shift of your power or equal to your strength. So let's say you've got like unearthly strength or Monster 75 strength, like Namor, for instance, or Submariner, probably. They're the same character. Aquaman has the exact same strength. So yeah, easily. Actually, Aquaman might be stronger. Either way. So let's see. Other abilities that you could do is swimming would probably be like having people come in your like your undertow, basically. As you're swimming, you're gonna have a stream behind you. One of the abilities that you can do is have somebody behind you moving at -1 column shift of your speed. So what that means is eventually they're going to be outside of your undertow, all right, outside of the current that you're basically moving at. Eventually they're going to fall off of it. So I don't know, tie a rope to your feet or just, every so often you got to slow, maybe you can do it, but you'll have to go up -1 column shift of your speed. Otherwise you bypass them. So -1 column shift your power rank of swimming. That's how fast you can make these guys behind you swim. So if you swim at your full power rank, you're screwed. If you swim at -1 column shift your power, then these guys will be able to keep up with you no problem. So I think that balances out pretty well. No, it wouldn't make their column shifted movement go any lower either, because it's just the idea that you're swimming. It's like the difference between hyper digging. If you want to dig a hole for just yourself, or you want to dig a hole for other people to be able to follow you also, that doesn't collapse behind you as you're moving. That's basically what I'm going off of. The latter of those two examples is slower. It's negatives to your power rank. So I would do likewise here. Now, something like leaping. Leaping is a fun one. Leaping, I think one of the ones that we can initially think of is a land slam, like when the Hulk lands after a leap, boom, he just shakes the ground. That's always a fun one. You'd probably have to have super strength to do that otherwise, but I don't know, that's a hard one. If you can find a way, if you can figure out a way as a player to convince your judge otherwise, right now, it's hard for me to think of anything along those lines. And you probably have to have amazing 50 strength or better in order to be able to do that. Maybe you've got some kind of an inertia field while you're leaping, which allows you to do, you got to have some kind of a reason for why you can leap. If you've got, let's say, an inertia field, that's something I could think of. I had to study physics when I was younger, when I went to school. So if you're like, let's say, a typical or good 10 strength character, but you've got, let's say, unearthly hyper leaping, maybe the reason why you leap is because you've got an inertia field that allows you to continue perpetual motion, at least when you're through the air, or to your understanding, only when you're through the air. All right. In which case that inertia field allows you to replicate unearthly strength, maybe -1 column shift, so Monster 75 strength to land and boom, slam into the ground, as opposed to a nice soft cushy blow, right? So yeah, why not? Something along those lines. Something else with leaping, bouncing around the room. So just like you got multiple teleportations all over the place, we'll talk about that next week. Let's do something like multiple bouncing. There's a character, Frogman, who could do stuff like that. Also Speedball. I'm sure you're thinking of Speedball right away. There's a couple characters who do things like that. Oh, Beast. Beast is one of them who does that, right? Just turns into a big furry blue ball and just all over like a little ping pong ball or a pinball. Something along those lines would be to hit multiple enemies at the same time, or to, so it would basically be a charging attack where you're using their mass to bounce off of them and hit somebody else. So you get like a slamming attack against each one also. Something along those lines I think would be fine. So if you got 3 enemies in the room and you just use your hyper leaping ability to bing, bing, bing off of each of the 3 characters, as long as let's say you've got 5 areas of movement and these guys are all 1 area away from each other and you. Okay, so you could say 1 area, 2 area, 3 area, and then 4th area, you're back where you are. Or you can even go a 5th area and back even further. You know what I'm saying? An extra 10 feet behind you, something along those lines. Why not? You know what I'm saying? Have some fun with it. And basically also using your leaping attack as a direct charge attack for one individual. You know, so you literally just, boom. And let's say I would probably consider giving that a +1 column shift to charge. And that includes damage. You know what I'm saying? So act like your hyper leaping is your endurance, unless your endurance is higher, obviously, but act like it in that regard, and +1 column shift to that, or +1 column shift to your endurance, whichever one is higher. We could say higher. Why not? You know what I'm saying? Just simply because you're doing this hyper leap, like a big drop kick from across the room, across a football field, depending on your hyper leaping power rank, and then just getting a big boom charge attack right into them, one person. I would say give that a +1 column shift for everything. All right. Let's move on to Levitation. Levitation is a very interesting one because your average character, especially when he first starts playing the game, is like, what do I need Levitation for? It's only vertical movement, up and down. Yeah, that's right. Levitation is an interesting one. There's a reason why they don't usually say you can have a +1 column shift to your movement if you take Levitation over flight, because Levitation gives you something else entirely. Levitation is, for the most part, just up and down movement. But there are certain ways that you can get around this. All right? One power stunt, case in point, would be that you can levitate even in your sleep. Now, flight in your sleep, essentially impossible unless you have wings. Then, because Angel is able to do that, or Archangel at this point. But Angel was able to do that. He could actually fall asleep while he was flying. With wings, that's acceptable. But something along the lines of Levitation, yeah, you have to be conscious to be able to use it. But if you use a power stunt, then you don't have to worry about that. You can always use the power and just you never have to have your feet touch the ground. Winds and things like that. You choose whether or not it allows you to be affected by winds. Now, obviously, it's up to your power rank. So if you've got incredible 40 levitation abilities, Storm may be able to come along with her amazing 50 winds, and you're going to have a hard time resisting her. But regular, normal, mundane winds, you completely ignore those if you choose. Otherwise, you can levitate and allow the winds to affect you, and now you can kind of control flight. And now here's your horizontal movement. You see what I'm saying? So you can try and control your flight and your movement in that regard. Since you're levitating, it's essentially like you're at 0G. Like 0G, but also completely weightless. Now, with that being the case, that means that friction shouldn't really bother you. So if somebody moves you at incredible 40 speeds, or amazing 50 speeds, whatever it is, then or let's say someone gives you a fastball special and you go right away into levitation mode, you should be able to. It's up to the judge. I say you should be able to just continue moving at your leisure. And you can control your trajectory in the form of your elevation, because you can only move, remember, your vertical, you're up and down, right? So if you're veering a little bit to the left or the right, you're screwed. But if you start going a little bit too high, or you start, going lower for whatever reason, then you can always just, change your elevation, change your pitch. Aside from that, what else is there? Oh, one of the things I suggested also, skywalking. Skywalking as a power stunt. Look, if you're at 0G, if you're at 0 density for the most part, I think that any little thing can move you, right? There's going to be winds up there of some sort. It'd be very rare to have a dead airspace, unless you're in the void, in which case you're kind of screwed. Levitation, however, if you are trapped in space, case in point, I think that levitation should allow you to re-enter the Earth, all right, without ricocheting off. flight, like if you only got typical 6 flight and you're stuck off in space, you're not going to find your way back into space. That's simply not the way it works. You're going to be in perpetual free fall, always around and bouncing off of the Earth's atmosphere. But if you have a levitation, you should be able to bypass that, no problems whatsoever. You should also be able to fly into, you should be able to have escape velocity. Now, again, when you study flight, or you say more specifically like myself, you study physics, you understand that you have to go at a certain speed for, just look up the speeds for escape velocity and understand the way that actually works. You're ricocheting off of the atmosphere in that regards also. Escape velocity, you have to be able to go at a certain speed unless you have levitation. Even Feeble 2, Feeble 1, levitation, that bypasses all of that and you should be able to escape. Now, you have to bring your own atmosphere, otherwise you're going to suffocate in space. You're going to freeze or you're going to burn up. You get the idea. You should have life support. But if you've, say, got 20 points of life support, excellent 20 life support, and you could survive in the vacuum of space for 20 rounds and you've got levitation, go up, have a quick little explore, and then come back down at in 20 rounds or so. Have some fun with it. But skywalking should be something that you should be able to do, and also water walking. Water walking should be a given. You can easily walk across the water. You know what I'm saying? Because you're just kind of like paddling, right? You're not going to be moving very fast, but it'd be a really cool, religious effect. I'm just saying. But skywalking, I would say, yeah, you're light enough that you can walk across the clouds. You can get some kind of momentum by putting your feet or your hands across the clouds, or swimming through the clouds, so to speak. Absolutely. Have some fun with it. Let's go into flight itself. Now, flight's an interesting one. Flight, I want you to remember that you cannot hover and you cannot immediately take off at your full maximum speed as a norm for flight. Now, certain things bypass it. Wings is a great one. You know what I'm saying? Wings has to be one of my favorite ones. Winged flight. That's like everybody's dream, I would imagine. You know what I'm saying? Just flying literally like a bird, Maybe somebody just wants to Superman it and fly off, or you want to Thor it and fly off. Whatever your method of speed, think about it and have some fun with it. If you do roll or you choose true flight, all right, you can really have some fun with this. You can make true flight a double power, all right, because like Superman's flight is perfect. There's no way to stop him from flying. It's true flight. He's not spinning a hammer and throwing it to fly. He's not beating his wings to fly. He's not adjusting gravity. There's no outside stimuli to really stop Superman from being able to fly. He flies at his power rank speed at his power rank as though it were his strength. So let's say you've got a character who has true flight, all right, who has typical 6 speed, and somebody grabs his foot, but he's got incredible 40 true flight. He's flying as though he's got incredible 40 strength. So if this guy's only got excellent 20 strength, you're breaking his grasp or you're bringing it up with you. And that's always going to be a fun one. True flight period, but for the most part, true flight, depending on what your flight is. If you got Iron Man's rocket boots, and hip boots and backpack and all the crazy devices he's got to make him fly, hey man, busting up those things, he can't fly anymore. Who am I thinking of? Wonder Man. Wonder Man's an interesting one. Oh, I got Wonder Man over here. So Wonder Man is an interesting one because of his ionic body. So you got Wonder Man here, and before he had to have that backpack that operated on his ionic body. When he didn't have that, he had to take the power stunt of leaping. You know what I'm saying? That was always a fun one, watching him leap in his solo series. But now he's able to fly without it. And he does indeed have a form of true flight. He can levitate, he can hover, he can just fly. I believe that he can fly at his maximum speed because he can turn his form fully ionic, as opposed to the solidified ionic right now, and just go crazy, have some fun with it. Wonder Man Simon Williams is a very interesting character the more you look into him. But true flight would be something that whether you bound him hand and feet and all that stuff, he can still fly. You know what I'm saying? This character can absolutely still fly. True flight is something that when you think about a character like Superman fighting Doomsday, oh, why didn't you just fly him up into the sky and all that stuff? Yeah, he kind of should have. He should have gotten behind him and just flew him up in the sky and kept on going instead of fighting him while he was up in the air like that, or giving Doomsday a chance to turn around on him. But yeah, absolutely. Taking a character and flying that character up into space, you got him. You know what I'm saying? Or bring him up into the stratosphere and then just dropping him. You know, oops. Or flying into the stratosphere and dropping an item on top of somebody's head. That's going to be one heck of an aim to be able to pull off. You better have a sniper scope when you're dropping that penny. But yeah, all of those things should be some kind of an ability, an intensity feat to use. Some of the other power stunts that you can use, let's say, you want hover, or you want to be able to take off at rocket speed. Those should be a power and a limitation. All right. So, okay, you can take off at rocket speed. So you can, like for instance, what's his name? Cannonball. All right. You can fly like Cannonball, and if you don't know who Cannonball is, check out Cannonball Explained in a Minute on Comic Book University. But just, you take off at maximum speed all the time. Now, one of the disadvantages is, while you can certainly slow down, you can't hover, for one thing, but you also have to make an agility feat in order to turn each time. And you can't even use your power. You can't use your power as your agility to do that. You have to use your actual agility. So if you got, like, let's say a typical agility, man, you're going to be hurting. Every time that you're trying to turn, you're going to be hurting, is what it is. Or you can hover. Just, you have the ability to hover, but I don't know, whatever. It's -1 column shift to your flight. You know what I'm saying? So I want the ability to hover. I rolled Incredible 40. Okay, well, you can hover if you take only Remarkable 30 speed. That really might be worth it. No joke. All right. So another ability would be like, let's say for a power stunt, a corkscrew slam. All right. What about if you're flying in such a way and you're increasing your speed in every way, shape, and form, and you kind of do like a corkscrew, all right, as you fly into somebody to get that extra. I remember when I was in the martial arts, the reverse punch. One of the things we used to always say about the reverse punch, you have it cocked back here under your shoulder, and then when you throw it forward, you're spinning it at the last moment. You're spinning it, boom, to get that twist action, to get that extra blast when you're going to hit somebody in the chest or in the head. So if you're going to corkscrew and slam into somebody, and you've seen people do that before in the comic books, on TV, whatever, right? You've seen Superman do it in Quest for Peace. I know, we're all still traumatized by that one. But, heck, man, if they're going to use that as a power stunt for flight, give them a +1 column shift to their charge. Absolutely. Have some fun with it. Make it a little bit harder, and it's not an endurance feat to hit, but now it's an agility feat to hit. You still use your endurance for everything else, all right, for the damage and everything, but you got to use your agility to hit also, or it's agility afterwards or your intuition to avoid throwing up. You know what I'm saying? To avoid that crazy vertigo that you're going to get afterwards. Another ability could be flying and holding somebody's face, you know what I'm saying, or their back on the ground. We've all seen how Spider-Man, went after Sandman that one time, and he put his face into the train and all that crazy stuff. Well, that's the train that was moving. Imagine if it was Superman who was flying and he grabbed somebody. This is Marvel, right? Let's just be real. Let's use Hyperion instead. Let's say he grabs somebody and starts flying really low to the ground. Mind you, if you're really low to the ground or close to somebody, check out my previous video. You're flying not at flight speed. You're now flying at land speed. Keep that in mind. On page 23 of the Player's Handbook, if you're within 2 areas, you have to use the land speed instead. But if you're moving at that land speed and it's fast enough and you're putting that person down against the ground, have some fun with that one, man. They're taking that damage from hitting everything that's on the ground. Maybe -1 column shift, maybe not, maybe an extra column shift. Depends on how far the person's traveling, how fast they're traveling, and all that good stuff. But they are definitely taking some kind of stun damage, some kind of stun on them. Absolutely. Could you imagine just being slammed against the ground and then dragged as you're flying? That's crazy. So only a sick, twisted mind inside of a black bandana would ever think of something like that, right? So let's take this a little bit further, shall we? Carrier wave is an interesting one. A carrier wave is something that Magneto does. I know in all the basic player books it says that he does flight. No, it's actually carrier wave, which replicates flight, but it's flight by using the electromagnetic spectrum. Carrier wave allows you to carry others with you as you're flying. And no, you don't need to be wearing chainmail to do it. You could be naked, for all I care, with no metal implants or screws or anything like that. That's quite a sight, right? Seeing naked people on a carrier wave. So you can use carrier wave and have others come with you. Magnetics, or anybody who operates on the full electromagnetic spectrum, absolutely. Storm is somebody who could do something very similar to that also. It's an extra power stunt to bring each other person you want with you, but you can indeed actually do something like that. Someone like Electro should be able to do that because Black Lightning can. Black Lightning actually uses several abilities. He uses hyper leap, like massively hyper leaping, in the form of making it replicate flight. He should also be able to use, obviously Electro is able to do that ground travel by traveling through electrical cables. Somebody like the Atom over in DC Comics can travel through phone wires and things like that. Short distance, no, he's been able to do it long distance too. DC, man, dials up to like 14. But yeah, all different forms of travel like that. But like carrier wave would have to be something extra special. If you were to use electricity manipulation, that is a part of the electromagnetic spectrum. So there shouldn't be that big of a deal, as a power stunt to be able to do that. But I would say, here, I used to play GURPS when I was younger, and I loved the GURPS system, especially 3rd edition. That's what I pretty much memorized that, even though I played 4th edition also. Anyway, when you study their magic or their martial arts tables, there are certain things, actually it's more than that, just almost everything they did, all their ancillary books, they would have prerequisites to doing the higher level stuff. So let's say you want to throw a fireball. Yeah, you can throw a fireball, but first you got to buy like these 3 or 6, whatever it is, abilities first, then you can take fireball. You know what I'm saying? You have to learn how to do certain things first. You can't just right away start throwing fireballs. So likewise here, hey, you learn how to leap, then you can start doing, what do you call it? First you learn how to do the leaping thing. Boom, you're good. Then you can learn how to do, let's say, carrier wave. You know what I'm saying? Make them build for it. Make them earn it. All right? Make them take other power stunts first. Okay. Shoot. Limitations for flight. What if you leave a trail? You know what I'm saying? What if you're leaving like the chemtrails? When jets open up their vents and allow all that solidified water, basically. The water just turns, it looks like clouds as they're flying. You actually get to see that trail behind them. There's a really good way, and it stays there for a while. So you can look up there and you can tell where it started, where it ended. So you can tell which direction this hero flew, or which direction that jet flew. So that could be an interesting one. Somebody can always find you. It doesn't have to be that. It could be, there's electricity charging the air after you've done your hyper leaping with your electrical abilities. Just something like that. Something's changed, something's off, something's different. Maybe when you fly, leaves follow you. Have some fun with it. Another thing is, I'm thinking like Dragon Ball Z as a form of a limitation for flight. You remember Dragon Ball, especially in the regular Dragon Ball series. Goku flew with a Nimbus He actually used the Nimbus. That was that little cloud that he stood on, and he, went flying with that. That's a great one. It's like, oh, yeah, I can fly, but it's an external thing that allows me to fly, all right? So it doesn't have to be a Nimbus specifically, but absolutely have something else, like a floating disc. You know what I'm saying? Instead of just you're making a disc and then you're flying on that and you can always remake it. No, you've got like a disc and that's how you fly. Think of the current version of the Patriot. He's got that shield that he can use. He can also throw it on the ground and jump on it and then take off in flight. So just think about things along those lines. Hey guys, sorry. I really did try to do all this on just one video, but we've got about an hour's of footage on this. Literally, I think I'm like 2 minutes shy of an hour. So I'm just going to have to split this in half at this point. All of the movement, except for teleportation and super speed, is going to be on that side. In the next video that's coming out next week, that's next Monday, guys, sorry. That's going to be where I'm just talking about super speed because there is so much to cover on that also. And then we'll get to hopefully everything that has to do with teleportation in the following week. We'll just have to see. We'll play it by ear. Anyway, guys, again, really sorry for that. Wouldn't have done it if I could have avoided it. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.
Thank you.